Hello, welcome to the land of Kakiak. My name is Laurel. Today is a recording day. I like to do this on the weekend, usually a Saturday or Sunday morning before anybody else is up. It gives me a chance to come into the schoolroom, kind of reflect on the week, tidy up, think forward. I like to gather up all the materials for the boys. I have 3 boys that I will be recording for today, checking work and recording. I have an 8th grader, a 4th grader, and a 1st grader. So I have put timestamps in the description box for you if you just kind of wanted to skip to look at what different age groups work looks like for the week in our homeschool. So my favorite thing to do is have baskets for each kid that has their weekly resources in it. And so I am just going to collect all the things that I need to check. So I don't need all their books, right? I just have a couple notebooks or workbooks that I need to look through. I start with my 8th grader because his work is what I need to spend the most time on and be the most thoughtful about. So I like to do his first to get it out of the way. The younger 2, I've been checking their work all week, basically. And I just make myself one big pile, and I turn on something I like to listen to. This is a pastor. This is a Sunday school he teaches, but I'll link to him in the description box because he's good to listen to. And then I just get into my planner, which I love using a binder planner. I'll link to everything I use to put together my planner for you in the description box as well. And I just get started on checking my son's notebooks and works for the week. So we use notebooking pages. This, if you're familiar with my channel, I usually spiral bind them into, notebooks. But because of his math and because I'm adding in so many worksheets and just certain subjects we're doing right now, like his writing, we're using writing and rhetoric, and so we're mostly writing in his workbook. So I didn't need a whole bunch of extra essay writing pages. And, he types up his essays and stuff, and he does those. So certain things he's printing out, and I wanted to be able to hole punch them and just put them into his writing section. So I did modify his notebook this time. I took out some of the extra writing pages and to make room for just, adding in worksheets and things that we are using. But I still wanted that same method where I just have to turn the page and see the next thing to record for him or check. And then it also keeps him on track during the day. He doesn't have to juggle so much stuff and wonder, what am I doing next? He just turns the page in his notebook / binder and he sees what page he's on. And so then he can grab the appropriate book that he may need to be using. Here's an example of his worksheets he's using for math. We are currently using Learn Math Fast, and I think I'm going to do a review of some of our curriculum choices, end of year reviews here pretty soon. We're almost done with a couple things, but yeah, the Learn Math Fast is something I will share with you guys our thoughts and how it went for us and how we were using it. Just checking his vocabulary. He is in 8th grade now, and so this year, kind of stepped up in complexity for him as far as subjects and assignments, and I did notice that even though having the notebook and stuff was really helpful, he still needs me to check his work because there is often something missing. He didn't get to something during the week, and he really does need that oversight because even if I tell him, you gotta manage your own time, you have a to-do list. I make him a to-do list, or sometimes he makes it, but oftentimes something doesn't get done for some reason, and he never thinks on Saturday morning, I got to get up and I didn't do that one lab and I've got to get up and do it. It just won't happen. So to keep us on track, I really do need this weekend work checking time. And I'm around, he's working I know he's working all the time. during the week. So it's not that he has been doing nothing, but yeah, time management and accountability. Mom is still here to help with that. And you see I put little sticky notes, like I flag pages if it looks like he missed something, or if he needs to come back to it and correct something, or if I didn't think it was quite up to snuff, So we're doing writing and rhetoric, and so to keep track of stuff, I do, a lot of it is in his workbook, and I have him usually just write the dates as we're working in his workbook, and that's what I use to record off of. I just go through the workbook, but I do like to mark it in his notebooking pages as well, even if I don't have something to put in the notebook. But, oftentimes he does use those pages. They do have assignments that aren't within the workbook. So he sometimes is writing things in there. He sometimes is typing things up, and I'm, hole punching them and putting them in. But I like to keep everything in order in his notebooking pages. And I do science last. I set up my recording page, my lesson plan page, to match the order of his notebooking pages. And because science is not contained within those notebooking pages, it's a separate curriculum for what he's doing in there. I just put it last, and it kind of takes me the longest because I've got to look through. I have lesson plans, you can see there for it, and that's what I use to make his to-do list and stuff. And then I record his grades on it as well. So that will give me a course grade at the end. But then I have got a lab notebooking pages and his comprehension question pages we're using Berean Builders, Science in the Atomic Age for him right now. And I just spiral bound those pages together into one big notebook. But so I go through and I check that and I record grades, which I just use a really simple grading system. It's basically done or not done. So I have 2 points. So 0 would be he didn't do it at all. 1 would be like partially done. And 2 out of 2 would be, complete and correct. And he is responsible for correcting his own comprehension questions. He does them and he looks up the answers and checks them. And then I just basically go in and make sure everything's done and record for completion. And I do take a look at, especially at labs, to make sure that they look decent and that he's actually put in some thought into them, and that they're not just, he's not just hacking it, not just phoning it in. So he did miss the lab. So I was just writing out that lab title for him, and of course, like flagging that page. And that's something like on a Saturday, I'd be like, okay, when he gets up, before you go do anything with your friends or do your music stuff, you've got to get your lab done. Of course, it kind of depends on the weekend. Sometimes I'm like, okay, you got to make it up next week. Next week is just going to be busier. You've got to squeeze in an extra lab now, and it has to go on his to-do list for the week. So I kind of make that decision at this point. Like, is he going to do it this weekend? Or I might look, and if his week doesn't look that busy, I might give him the option, to squeeze it in. This is his little to-do list. So he has this sitting on his book stand at his little work spot at the schoolroom table. And I find it helpful. If he fills it out, he'll just write science with a checkbox. But I will be a little more detailed and write out the comprehension questions he has to do and the lab he has to do. So I like to do it for him because I feel like it's more effective to have it a little more detailed. And I just know he just won't do it. So then, of course, I got to set up the next day's page or the next week's page for him. And I'm moving on to my 4th grader. So my 4th and 1st graders, I'm using their everything else notebooks. Right now we're doing Bible, science, and math in these notebooks. I'm doing my 4th graders first. You can see the pages are just slightly different. So we're doing the same Bible together as a family subject, and I'm doing science with those two together. We're again using Berean Builders, but we're using Science in the Beginning. It's the first book in that series. And then, of course, then their math is individualized. We're using the Study Arithmetics series. It's a vintage math book and series, and I've shared about it before. If you want any links to it or have any questions about it, leave me a comment, and I'll share that with you. But because I work so much more with those younger two, you're very much more hands-on and involved, you can kind of see stars on their pages. Like I'm checking everything they do as they finish it, and it has to be, good at the time of doing the assignment. Okay, so those are those pages. This is his spelling book. He's in McGuffey's spelling level 4. And so again, I have pretty much already checked these off, but this is what I know what to record. I'm looking at the dates, and that tells me like where to record things. I think this week we did miss a day of school. I forget. I think we had we had a dentist appointment. That's what it was. Yeah. Sometimes I skip, like this week, I didn't feel like he needed to do this activity in spelling. Sometimes we just skip it. He felt like he was ready for his test. So we just skipped that last activity and went straight to his test. And I feel, if you are using my McGuffey spelling, I was just talking to somebody about this last night. Like, feel free to combine activities, skip activities, lighten up activities, like make it work, the most effective for you. And then he's using Writing and Rhetoric, book 4. So again, he is writing in his workbook for this. So I'm just checking that. Again, I just have him write the date straight in it. And then that's how I record, is based off of dates. Last but not least is my first grader's work. So you'll see these are very similar pages. We are using The Biggest Story still for Bible. We are in the Acts and Epistles book. And so that's what we've been doing for Bible, his math, study arithmetics, and Brian Builders for science. And we just slightly, it's just slightly modified for those two family subjects, a little simpler for a first grader, But he actually picks up, more than I think. I use a lot of narration for all their lessons. Like as soon as we do a lesson, either in science or Bible, I start with the youngest and I say, okay, tell me back everything you can remember. And he'll give me something. And then I ask the next oldest, also 4th grader, okay, what do you have to add to that? And then, my older one will add on. And even if it's like for Bible, since we're doing those all 3 of them together still, then my oldest goes last and fills in all the blanks pretty much, right? All right, he's in McGuffey spelling level 1. I'm just going to check those pages. Sometimes I add in, this one's colored because I was having him color code words that rhymed. Sometimes we add in little skills that we're working on. I don't know why rhyming has taken him a while to grasp, but he's starting to get it. Okay, so that was his spelling week. And then he's almost done with the McGuffey's Revised Primer. This is my reading and writing companion notebook that goes with it, where we go over phonograms, words, then this is the whole lesson in here for copy work. And I've done a lot of videos on lessons about that. I'll link a recent one I did for you as well. And I like binder clip my flashcards, and we have a little game we're playing right now with it. And I have a phonological awareness, a checklist that I keep on there too, that I kind of work through. So that's all. And my little heart stickers for heart words. So I have all my little goodies binder clipped. I just use that as my bookmark. And then I just do a quick record. I'd say altogether for all 3 kids, I need a good solid hour. And this was about a perfect amount of time for me to listen to my Sunday school I was listening to. You saw me put on in the beginning. And I'm ready for next week.